when we were at the Super Bowl Radio Row. Ian Cummings, Pro Football Sports Network, covered the Combine all week long. Ian, how are you?
Doing good, doing good. It's good to talk with you again, and a lot of things to go back and review from the Combine. Like you said, Sonny Styles putting together a phenomenal performance, but I think even if the Buccaneers don't get him, I think more than a few of their targets in the round 1, round 2 range really showed out. So I think it kind of deepened the board for us here.
Yeah, so I've got the six most. I compiled like every mock draft that was out there using AI, of course, and it gave me the six names that get mock drafted to the Buccaneers the most. Sonny Styles, obviously on that list. Tell us more about him. Obviously, he had the explosive combine, and is he also a guy that you think after the combine that he had, is there a chance that he's even on the board at 15 at this point?
Yeah, I mean, whenever we talk about off-ball linebackers, we always have to factor in positional value, right? There's always an element of uncertainty with those kinds of players who don't play premium positions, right? In the eyes of the league, you'll see them way up offensive tackles and edge rushers, right? And playmakers every single year, and quarterbacks, obviously. The off-ball linebackers kind of at the bottom of that totem pole. That said, Sonny Styles breaks the mold for his position, and we saw that at the combine today. I didn't even expect him to test quite as well as he did. I knew he was going to test very well, but the numbers that he put up, man, I mean, 6'5", 244, almost 33-inch arms, ran a 4.46 40-yard dash, 43.5-inch vertical, 11.2 broad jump. I mean, these are just insane numbers in a 1.56 10-yard split as well on the 40. So just unheard of alien speed and explosion at that size too. We've scarcely seen this before. I can go back to Jack Campbell, Tremaine Edmonds, right? But I don't think Jack Campbell was quite this level of athlete. I don't think his tape was quite as good. I think Sonny Styles really breaks the mold. And me personally, we don't know what's going to happen. I would wager that he's not going to be there at 15, though. I would more likely bet on him being a top 10 pick at this point because off the field, too, he's a team captain. He's a locker room leader. The reports are just glowing regarding his mentality, his work ethic, on top of having that A-plus physical trait framework. So I don't think he's going to be there, right? It absolutely behooves the Buccaneers to know what they would have if he is. But the dude's a superlative talent and a superlative competitor. And I think even though he plays off-ball linebacker, he gives you the versatility to rush the passer. He can drop into coverage as well. So just a phenomenal player and will be a top 2 overall player on my board.
Yeah, near perfect RAS score as well, which we know the Buccaneers love here in Tampa Bay. Talking to Ian Cummings, Pro Football Sports Network this afternoon here on the Nick Wize Show. The top 6 most mock drafted players to the Bucs and all of these mock drafts that are out there. So we went over Sonny Styles. Next up, Cashas Howell. We continue to see him, the edge out of Texas A&M. Your thoughts on him?
Yeah, he's a really interesting player, and I think particularly for the Buccaneers, you're looking at a guy who is a good scheme fit, right? We know Todd Bowles has that odd front scheme where he likes to use a level of diverse blitz looks, and if you use diverse blitzes, you need guys who can rush from wider alignments or drop into coverage in the flats if they need to. So I think Cashas Howell, this is the type of player that they have banked on time and time again. Obviously, I think the big hang-up with him is going to be the arm length. He measured in around 6'2", over 250 pounds, so it was a good weight measurement for him relative to his height, but the arm length was 30 inches and 30 1/4 inches, which I believe is third percentile at most among edge rushers, and I don't think there's an edge rusher who's been drafted in round 1 to have arms that short, right? And I think, to me, he's more of a top 64 talent. He's more of a round 2, fringe round 2, round 3 guy for me because of being an outlier size player. And then also, I do think there are some deficiencies with speed to power on his tape that come from that size profile. So for the Buccaneers, it's a matter of, are we willing to bank on that, right? And you look at the explosion testing. He didn't test very well in the explosion, but I think he made up for it in the 40-yard dash, and he showed more of that functional athleticism that we do see on tape. I think he ran a 4.59, sub 4.6. And that speed really shows up off the edge with him. He is pretty light on his feet. He's a nimble accelerator and a lateral mover. And then you look at how he can stack counters and get tackles to lurch and kind of overset with his lateral agility and angle IQ. Like, this is a player who moves well, and he's smart with how he moves and sets up tackles. And he's got the rush arsenal. He's got the counter ability, and he's got the agility and flexibility to, make swift redirections and surge inside too. So I think, the arm length, the lacking power profile is going to be a concern. I think in round 2, though, he's a phenomenal value add for the Buccaneers. I wouldn't take him round 1. I think that's a little too high for a player who doesn't have this translatable speed to power profile. But in round 2, given the schematic fit, given the production profile that's very promising, and given, off the field too, you can tell he's got the motor, he's got the intangibles, he's got the work ethic. I think he's a good investment for the Buccaneers because of the scheme-specific fits there.
Interesting. Everyone's got him going round one. You're saying better chance to get him in round two. I would be, happy with that. Ian Cummings, Pro Football Sports Network, joining us this afternoon on 95.7 WDAE, going over the top 6 guys who are mock drafted the most to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And this is a guy we see often. And I feel like if they were to take him at 15, it's a little bit of a reach. I like the player, just not at 15. And maybe I'm wrong. You can tell me a little bit more about him. But C.J. Allen, the linebacker out of Georgia, obviously didn't test at the combine.
Yeah, he's a really interesting player, and he's another one who kind of provides that dichotomy of not an elite physical talent, but does he have the translatable traits and intangibles that are that make us willing to overlook that, right? And physically, I don't think he's lacking, right? I do think he has very good explosiveness and speed. Obviously didn't test, but I think you can see it on film. Working the second level, he does show really good half field range. I think closing over top routes and crashing into gaps too. I think the explosive element is definitely there, but from a size perspective, you are looking at a guy who's average to below average, right? Around 6'1", 230 pounds with only 31.5-inch arms, right? So all of those numbers are well below 50th percentile at the position. He's got pretty good hand size at 10 1/8. So I think, contending in contact situations, squaring up and attacking blocks, he's shown that he is pretty heavy-handed for his size. But again, what you're really banking on with C.J. Allen, and this is the fun part, the intangibles are through the roof. I think of the linebackers in the 2026 NFL draft, you could make a case that he's one of the best processors, pre-snap and post-snap. He was the field general, the green dot for the Georgia defense, and revealed at the combine in interviews that he was making a lot of the pre-snap checks and getting guys in position, right, and making some of the calls too. So in terms of the mentality, you're looking at a guy who's cerebral, who is advanced well beyond his years as a defensive commander. And I think particularly for the Buccaneers, Levante David is in the twilight of his career. Servassier Denise has not really panned out in the role next to him. I think getting a guy with those hyper-elite intangibles can be a really good thing. And you might be able to get him in round 2. The mock drafts that I've done, he usually goes in the void between the Buccaneers round 1 and round 2 picks, so maybe they have to move up a little bit to get him. But I think that average size profile could weigh him down, but he's a traditional 3-down linebacker who just provides rock-solid utility on all 3 downs. And in this type of class, a class that's pretty light on first-round talent, there's a little bit of a void in that 20 to 32 range. You could see him sneak into that range for sure. So kind of a wild card, but a player who's very translatable.
Ian Cummings, Pro Football Sports Network, joining us right now on the Nick Wize Show. Real quick, is Jermod McCoy, I'm seeing him mocked high, a cornerback out of Tennessee, ACL injury, anything to be worried about there? Or if the Bucs call his name at 15, are they all right?
We'll see. He said that he was all clear at the NFL Combine. He did not test or take part in drills at the Combine, said he was going to wait until the Pro Day. So I think we'll get a sense for how he moves at his Pro Day, which I assume will be later this month. I don't know if we've gotten a concrete schedule on that yet, but late March, early April, we'll be able to see if he's moving the way that he was a year and a half ago. But he's had a lot of time to recover from that injury, and of course that's part of the concern, right? The recovery timeline has definitely been extenuated, but I think we'll get a chance to see that. And he said that he's cleared, so we're holding out hope there, but things are trending in the right direction.
Now, Kenyon Sadiq, I think he's a fantastic player. I know he nailed a lot of the interviews at the Combine. I don't think there's a world where the Buccaneers take him in round 1, so we don't have to dive in on him. Talking to Ian Cummings, Pro Football Sports Network, but Kellrick Faulk, the edge rusher out of Auburn, the last guy I got a question for you on today. Your thoughts on him, and does he fit at 15? Is he worthy of the 15th pick for the Buccaneers?
15 would be a little high for me. I think he's 25th on my board right now, so a slight reach, but I do think it's within the realm of possibility. But for the Buccaneers specifically, I actually think here's the thing with the Buccaneers, right? They've had a dearth of edge talent. Yaya Diaby is a good rotational player, good pass rush catalyst, but is he a full-time starter? I don't know. You look at what they need from wider alignment rushers. I don't see Kellrick Faulk filling that role for them. I think if they drafted Kellrick Faulk, he would probably file into the Logan Hall, Elijah Roberts type of role, right? Being 6'6", 276 with over 34-inch arms. He's got that forklift power profile, right, to go along with good functional explosiveness, but not the kind of explosion, speed, and arc running ability that you want to weaponize from wider alignments. I think Kellrick Faulk would probably be better utilized inside a 3-tech, 4-eye, 5-tech. And he's got some wide alignment capability, but that's probably what you're going to draft him as if you're drafting him round 1. That said, you're looking at a high-level run defender right out of the gate who can acquire leverage for his size, who can forklift up and sledge blockers off the line and make tackles in the backfield. And the pass rushing operation has not developed to the level that we would want. But again, I think you have all of the building blocks there for that. So it's a little bit more of a project, a little bit more of a, developmental pick with an uncertain outcome. But again, all of the physical tools are there to at least contend in the trenches and help other guys get one-on-ones as well.
Ian Cummings, NFL draft analyst at Pro Football Sports Network. You can find him on Twitter at IC_draft. Ian, I appreciate your time this afternoon. Great stuff. And we'll talk again soon. I appreciate you coming on this afternoon.
Yes, sir, Nick. Thank you.
Have a good one. That is Ian Cummings. All right, when we come back, the top Tampa Bay headlines, we'll get to those next on The Nick Wize Show.
95.7 W.